Hi everyone, I hope you're well. So today I wanted to talk about something I guess slightly controversial that I haven't seen that many people talk about before, or at least not dedicate an entire video to. So I think it's been established at this point, at least in some YA circles or whatever, inside booktube, within booktube, that criticism isn't hate. That, criticizing a book and giving it a negative review, or maybe even saying that, you're not a fan of an author's works, that's not hate, right? But I've also gotten some comments in some of my recent and not so recent book reviews and discussions around books and reading and reviewing. Some comments that imply that I'm somehow participating in some type of censorship by reviewing something negatively or by criticizing things in a certain way. It seems that specifically not just, criticizing a book overall, but especially I think that adding a sort of ethical aspect to your criticism seems to cross the line for some people. A review doesn't just become censorship just because it's tackling some sort of moral or ideological aspect of a medium, or in this case, a book. So, for example, in one of my most recent videos where I'm talking about romance novels, I'm talking about the specific subgenre of romance novels about a Native American man and a white woman. So in one of those videos I'm proposing that a lot of those books are using racist tropes. And that saying that something has racist tropes, or even calling it racist outright, isn't censorship. And I'm being very bold about it and just saying it like that because even if it's criticism that's more on the ethical or the social side, rather than the technical side of the writing style and the character development and all these things, that's still not proposing that those books are made unavailable or inaccessible. And I'm also not punishing or threatening people who have written it or who read it or have liked it or whatever. And in fact, I would say that making a negative review is done, or at least I do it and a lot of people do it, precisely because they want there to be more discussion towards something. I also have a pretty negative review of Fahrenheit 451. That review is actually my most disliked video on my channel. And there's a few people in the comments implying that what I'm doing in that video is precisely what the book is against, or that that video exists precisely against people like me or what have you, or implying that there's something ironic about me criticizing a book about censorship, as if criticizing something was equal or synonymous with censoring it. Because the book, of course, happens to be about censorship, or at least by some people's interpretation, or it's either about that or about how books are inherently a better and more intellectual medium than visual mediums, which is another interpretation of this novel. And of course, I'm not the only one. I've noticed a lot of people who give negative reviews to Fahrenheit are given this exact same type of argument, where you are the problem if you don't like this book. So it becomes this thing where you're either for this book and you like the book for everything that it represents, or you're completely, if you don't like the book, then that means you're against everything that the book is about, and that you are somehow, if you don't think it's a good quality book in technical terms, that must also mean that you are against everything that it proposes and everything that people interpret that it is proposing or that it has as a message. So I've noticed that a lot of people who give low ratings and negative reviews to that book, to Fahrenheit, are often accused of either being dumb or somehow participating in censorship by inherently by disliking this novel. It's like disliking that book immediately makes you for censorship, or it makes you stupid, or it makes you some sort of anti-intellectualist. But the thing is, of course, that when I make a negative review, I'm also making use of my free speech. And there was a comment in that video about the racist romance novels that someone said I couldn't prevent people from writing what they wanted. And of course that's true, but that's not really what I was proposing in that video in the first place. I never even said anything like, oh, you shouldn't like these novels, or, we should. I said, what I do remember saying is that it's something we should move past, using racist tropes in in books. And yes, that is saying that is definitely me saying we shouldn't be doing them, or at least not this way anymore. We should be doing something different. And even saying that is also not censorship, because of course I'm not threatening anyone with whatever might happen if they do write something, or I'm not even criticizing the people who do like those books. And I think that all my points in that review or in that discussion video and in my Fahrenheit review are valid. Even if my points weren't valid, or I were just talking shit about the book or whatever, and I was just like, this book sucks and this yada yada yada, which I do say that it sucks in the title, that Fahrenheit sucks. But even if I were just saying that over and over, that still wouldn't be censorship. It would be a bad review, of course, if I didn't really have any specific valid points, but that still wouldn't be censorship. Now, I don't think it's impossible for individuals on the internet necessarily to participate in censorship. I think to some degree it has happened, and it can definitely happen on spaces like BookTube or Book Twitter. Twitter is kind of infamous for that kind of stuff. But, any community that revolves around reviewing media or anything that, has to do with clashing opinions, which is pretty much anything, there's definitely been cases of people being threatened or harassed or doxxed or swatted, or being threatened with being doxxed or swatted after they express a certain opinion, or what have you. And if you were to do that, obviously, if you were to threaten someone or harass them after they say something that you don't like or whatever, then that would obviously be participating in censorship, because you're trying to scare someone into silence. But those things are not criticisms of media or literature or anything like that. Those things are things that you do against a particular person. So if I were to say, well, these books should be completely unavailable to anyone ever, all the time, you shouldn't be legally allowed to buy them or have them in any way, that would be me proposing censorship. Or if I somehow had the power to remove videos or reviews that are positive and talk about Fahrenheit positively, then that would of course be me actively participating in censorship. But I'm not doing anything like that by giving negative reviews. In fact, it's the same thing. It's just me expressing myself, but in a way that some people might not like. So I figured that this video was very short and to the point, but yeah, I just really wanted to get that out of the way, because I figured that this might become a more common thing. Like I said, not necessarily a more common thing for me to, get comments about, but I think it might become more of a common thing to see people say that if you criticize a book in ideological terms, or you disagree with a book ideologically or socially or what have you, then that means that you somehow have less of a valid point to dislike it, or you don't have valid enough reasons to dislike it, or that you are somehow censoring the book by implying that it's racist, or by saying that it has racist tropes or what have you. This discussion has a lot to do with reviewing itself as well, because I feel like even myself, I used to see more personal, or I guess more social commentary or criticism towards books as somehow a bit less worthy, or not as important, or not as objective as reviews that are more about the technical aspects of reviewing. But I feel a different way towards it. I feel like, it's, I don't know, sometimes I think of the way that I review, or I have opinions, or I talk about music, or I think about music, and whether it's good or bad, or whether it's better than, some albums or songs are better than others, or what have you. And the way that I sometimes try to rationalize it in my head, it's not necessarily always technical either. And so it would be pretty strange for me to say that if you review books without talking about the writing style, then that means that your review is less worthy than someone who never touches on any ideological aspects of the books, of the novel or whatever, and they only touch on the technical aspects. And I think to some degree as well, it's kind of very difficult to completely avoid those two things from touching each other in a review, because they have a lot to do with each other sometimes. sometimes the way that things are written down in a book are done deliberately to sort of hide something or to emphasize on something. And oftentimes that has a lot to do with the ideas behind the novel itself, and that's not a bad thing either. It's just something that makes it a bit more interesting, that makes for more discussion about it. And so yeah, that's what I want, basically, more discussion that doesn't just go to the obvious points that, you know, we've all heard at this point, about Fahrenheit or about whatever novels that we might discuss in the future. So yes, I hope that you found this video interesting. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.